Welcome to Zonal's No More No Shows webinar. This is we're running a campaign at the moment just to try to raise awareness of the impact of no shows on the hospitality business. We've run a recent carried out a recent piece of research which showed that unfortunately no-shows have gone back up from 6% this time last year to 12% now. So we're back up into quite painful territory, which is costing the industry quite a lot of money. So we wanted to spend a bit of time today to look at what businesses can do to maximise bookings through revenue and reduce those no-show rates. So just a few introductions before we get started. I'm Olivia Fitzgerald. I'm the Chief Sales and Marketing Officer at Zonal, and I'm joined by Gareth and Amber, and I'm just going to ask you to introduce yourself, please. So Gareth, over to you.
Yeah, hi guys. I'm Gareth Barefoot, Head of Sales at Mitchells and Butlers, and predominantly in my role, so I lead the sales teams across the business, and I'm responsible for delivering and developing the sales strategies and working very, very closely with sort of sales technologies per se, particularly around pre-booked business. So very relevant for today.
Fantastic, thanks Gareth. And over to you, Amber. Can you introduce yourself too?
Yeah, absolutely. Hello everybody. I'm Amber Stainings, the CEO and founder of Bums on Seats. We are a business, if you don't know us, that focus purely on sales growth for multiple operators in the UK and Europe. We identify opportunities, we create strategies, and we deliver sales growth. So very, very apt for this topic as well today.
Fantastic. So we've got a couple of industry experts here who literally sort of live and breathe this subject all day, every day. So so I'm going to ask, just get started with asking a few questions just about actually what you're experiencing, whether it's sort of similar to the findings that we've had in the research, and just what you're doing, sort of practical things, I suppose, that you're doing in your businesses to try to sort of fight against this sort of no-show pattern that we're seeing. So I guess first of all, you know, we are after the pandemic, coming out of the pandemic, we had a really nice kind of reduction in no-show rates, and combined with an increase in booking percentages, I suppose. You know, a lot of businesses decided that they wanted to sort of secure that business, and customer behaviour seemed to be that they wanted to have the reliability of knowing that they had a table booked. But sadly, you know, we've seen that now going back up. I mean, why do you think that's happening? And are there any sort of and are there any ways? I mean, for Zonal, as a tech business, obviously we're always thinking technology, but is that something technology can actually help with? Gareth, first of all, I'm going to go to you on that one. What's your experience at Mitchells and Butlers?
Yeah, it follows the pattern, as you've quite rightly said there, Olivier. There's always going to be no-shows. We know that it's a fact of life with any business that has pre-booked business, and you see peaks and troughs as the trading year goes on. Obviously, coming out of COVID, people were programmed to book. So that's first of all been a positive issue for us in hospitality. There was such a thing coming out of COVID that we could predict our business that was coming in. Now, as time's gone by, pre-booked or having to book has sort of descaled in necessity in many businesses in hospitality. But I think what that's done is that people have become a bit more laissez-faire, that, oh, well, whatever, what will be, I just won't show up or I'll cancel. So we as a business and as a sector have to handle that. I think from an M&B point of view, and you can only speak personally of the brands that you actually look after, is that it's not a simple one-size-fits-all solution. No shows differ greatly across brands and what your brands do and how they trade and what kind of business and sectors they're involved in. So what we do as a business, as far as no-shows is concerned, is trying to understand what the no-show actually is. And it's not a simple fact that, oh, 10% don't show up. No, it's percentages of percentages. So, for example, there are external factors. And I know we'll laugh at weather and train strikes and all of that, but they have a huge impact on those shows, which are in essence out of our control. And the example we would use, Olivia, is Toby Carver is a perfect example. If I've booked and pre-booked my Sunday lunch on the Friday, and guess what, the weather forecaster predicts 32 degrees on the Sunday, you know what's going to happen. People are going to either cancel, great, at least we can refill that, but they will forget and they will look for a rooftop terrace, an outside space, and the no-shows will start to creep up. So when we analyse no-shows, cut a long story short, we need to find out reason, size, group, when did they book, have they got a history of no-showing, and all of this is answered by technology. We use technology to analyse this sort of booking journey, and then CRM in effect on there to see what customers are loyal, what customers no-show, what age group doesn't show. That's quite interesting as well, because that differs. So first of all, businesses need to understand what is actually making up the fabric of the no-show. Why? What is the why? And then you can start to look for that solution.
That's really interesting. So it's not necessarily, I think that it's not necessarily a blanket solution.
No,
it might be quite nuanced, actually. That's really interesting. And Amber, does that sort of fit with what you
I think I absolutely, I completely agree with everything Gareth said. I think the other point I would make is post-pandemic, there was so much pent-up demand, and the FOMO factor was real. Everybody wanted to go out. So you would go out to your local or your favourite restaurant, pub, bar. You'd be taking trips and travelling more, and all of that was happening. So as well as the consumer behaviour of, we know we have to book because we had to do that through the pandemic, coming out of the pandemic, we wanted to go out, we wanted to have fun, we wanted to spend money. And obviously over time that's depleted. You then throw in a cost of living crisis and people are going out less. And yes, they may be spending more, but actually that's also down to the fact that everything costs more. So there's a little bit of noise in this spend per head increase, if you want my opinion on that. But overall, relationships with the pubs, bars, restaurants, even hotels, they have to work a lot harder to get that demand. And I don't know many businesses that are full with their spaces, all spaces, all time, 7 days a week. And there's so much choice for the consumer now. So I think it's a tougher climate for me now than it's ever been. And therefore, you can't just be good, you can't just be average. If you want to capture your customer and be busy, you have to be exceptional at what you do, and you have to offer your offering, and your visibility has never been more important. You have to be number one choice, and that's a really hard thing to achieve in this climate.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And it's interesting, isn't it, that, like, coming back to Gareth's point on the one size fits all sort of thing, I suppose being clever about using the data to see when things are hitting you. Like, it might be for some brands, it might be Saturday nights is the big problem, or for others it might be midweek, or I suppose there's a lot of I suppose when you talk about sort of upping your game to be sort of the best choice around, I guess understanding the data and understanding your customer base is also like part of that.
Yeah.
Olivia, that's absolutely, sorry, Amber.
No, it's all right. Go on, Gareth, after you.
You're absolutely right. Data is king now in how we actually determine what is an issue, what's an opportunity, what's a challenge. And going back to the subject matter of no-shows is to forensically interrogate the weekly no-shows. And you can only do that with data, of course. And once you know what that day is, what that time is, but more importantly, to be honest, Olivia, it's when was that booking made? Was it made a week in advance? For how many people and what for? So, for example, if we've got the Euros and, the semi-finals, we're pre-booked. Guess what? If England don't get into the semi-finals, guess what starts happening? So it's for us as a business to start to sort of predetermine what could happen if this happens. And it's also to understand as well that there are certain times that we always have no shows. Yeah. So we can implement overbooking within reason policies on there. We know it's going to happen, like an airline, basically. Yeah. So, Amber, sorry.
No, I was going to say, I completely agree, because that's where the tech comes in. Because if you know, and a lot of businesses, I think we know on a Saturday between 7 and 9, we are fully booked. If you're a restaurant, if you're a decent restaurant, you're fully booked. So how do you use tech to cross-sell times, days, even venues within your group? And that's really important. Not making that decision on the day, last minute, making that decision way in advance, to Gareth's point. So having all of the data points that we have, a lot of businesses just don't know how to use that, because we almost get swamped with so much data. It's coming in from Wi-Fi, from feedback, from pre-bookings, but it's really, really valuable because it enables you to pre-plan and use tech to then capitalize on every space at every time and every business that you have within your estate. And that's the really important bit, because it's not enough just to say, oh, we're fully booked, great. And then actually what happens is that all the audits that we run for businesses at those key times, you're just losing so many customers. They're going elsewhere, where you could be a lot smarter with how you keep that business within that business, that estate or that family. So I think Gareth's absolutely spot on. Pre-planning, using data, guides clever decision making to minimize no-shows.
Yeah, and are you finding, I mean, that makes me think, thinking about using the data, one of the things we found in our research was that loyal customers will be far less likely to no-show than the average. I mean, is that something, do you, with M&B's brands, do you see that borne out, Gareth? I know you've got sort of loyalty schemes in many brands, and you know, do you think that's, would you regard a loyal customer differently in terms of how likely they are to show up?
I think the loyal customer acts differently, Olivia. There's no question about it. If we take, for example, a brand like Miller & Carter with a big following and a big loyalty scheme, is your loyal customer who perhaps books date night once a fortnight in a Miller & Carter on a Thursday. That couple tend to always turn up because they have a brand alignment, they have a synergy with the brand, and a trust, obviously, with the brand, which has been built up over the years. Where the flip side is, and I can speak from bitter experience, having 18 to 24-year-old kids, basically, is they don't tend to show that loyalty. So they will multiple book just to reserve a space to make that decision on that very hour of that day of that booking of where they're going. Because guess what, the sun came out, or Jack doesn't want to go to the rooftop terrace. And that's where the no-shows start to kick quite quickly, because they've multiple booked or multiple reserved. And then regardless of a robust cancellation or editable booking platform, unfortunately, they just don't turn up. And we see that in that age group. The more mature age group tend to not stick to the, okay, we're going to multiple book. They'll book one loyal brand business venue, and they'll tend to 9 times out of 10 turn up or follow the appropriate cancellation policy.
Yeah,
we're much more law-abiding, aren't we?
Oh well, we hope so.
But you know, it all goes down to strategy, doesn't it? Because if you have a business model that has a high proportion of Gen Z, then your strategy has to be around how do we continue to create those reasons to visit, and our shop window is in all of your social media, your TikTok, your Instagram, your website, that entices those Gen Z so that they don't just not turn up, because they want to try that experience. And then when they're there, obviously you have to turn them into a more loyal customer. So I think Gareth's right. We spend a lot of time at Bums on Seats talking about local market. Everything now is about local market. Yes, we have businesses that are great destination businesses as well, but you can't survive 7 days a week, not often, being a destination business. So if you want local loyal customers, that for me is your best strategy. And how do you achieve that? So what are you doing to build that relationship in your local area? And by local, I mean, depending on where your site is based, it could be within a 15-minute radius. And that's vital, because those local customers will visit more frequently, and probably, you know, span across the week as well. And that's key. You can't just survive on being cool and trendy either. Like you need to have that balance of both.
Yeah, that's actually, I was talking to some operators from sort of multi-site operators yesterday, and there was quite a lot of attention being paid actually to the local. Almost, it's not just marketing, doesn't just and creating that loyalty doesn't just happen at brand level, it happens at site level as well, and GMs need to be empowered to do that. And what do you in terms of sort of that like before a customer ever actually sets foot in your restaurant or pub, what would you sort of advise in terms of just increasing engagement? I mean, that seems like a very crucial part of reducing no-shows, to have a more intense relationship with your customer before they ever arrive in your venue.
Well, I think from our perspective across multiple brands is that the decision to buy journey starts a long time before where we're talking about now, the no-show, unfortunately. The engagement of customer, be it digitally or physically on their referral or not, is vital. Is that you need to furnish that customer with everything they need to have made that decision and have the technology, the platforms, the journey in place. It's quick and easy. We always laugh sometimes that, you know, in the old days, you could book an airline ticket quicker than you could reserve and book a table down your local restaurant. You know, it's got to be fit for purpose. It's got to be easy, and it's got to be multi-channel. And then what I want to know is what I want to know before I turn up for that booking. I don't want to get into a tirade of going backwards and forwards, asking questions. Can I see the menu? What's the menu for tonight? So you're building up this, as Amber said here, on this, I really want to go because I'm excited to go. And that in itself will cut down your no-shows, because there's an anticipation, because I've furnished you with the information and hopefully the excitement and the anticipation to turn up and enjoy.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's also so much about the customer journey, isn't it? And the guest experience. You know, we'll never not talk about guest experience. And by the definition of hospitality, we need to deliver hospitality from the first point of seeing about this pub, bar, restaurant, whatever format you are. And that's vital. And so often when we audit businesses, that customer journey, that guest experience from the beginning is letting them down. So there's too many clicks to book. The visuals aren't great. There's no lifestyle images. You know, they're asking for deposits. I took my mum and dad out on Monday lunchtime in Guildford, and I had to put down a card auth for a restaurant in Guildford for 4 people. And I thought, that's really off-putting for me as a guest. You've got a blanket rule across your week, which actually is really off-putting. So all of these things just start to create emotions in the customer before they've even set foot or decided where to go. And that's a really important point, that we understand the emotional reasons behind booking and making decisions, and how that's changed and continues to change since the pandemic. And I think Gareth's bang on. Flexibility is key. You have to allow retail do this exceptionally well. They've always been further ahead than hospitality. But if I can get an Amazon delivery in 2 hours, you know, of whatever I want, my expectation of how I book a restaurant, pub, bar doesn't change. Like EasyJet, another great example. I want to be upsold. I want all the information. I want it in a way that suits me at a time that suits me. And some customers still want a phone call. You know, there's nothing wrong with, if you've got a group and occasion booking, calling them the day before and saying, looking forward to having you. I understand staff issues. I understand that. But people still buy from people. And technology enhances that journey. But don't forget, we're in hospitality. We should deliver hospitality at every point of that customer journey.
I think, Olivia, just jumping on Amber's point there, which is absolutely spot on. That last point is that, you know, 100 years ago, I was a salesperson traipsing the streets, and we didn't have technology, of course, all these wonderful tools we have now. And the confirmation call, as it was still called, I believe, on there in these days, is absolutely key. Yes, I can have a text, an email, I can have a WhatsApp, I can have any combination of confirmation. But there is no question in work that we've done, excuse me, in some of our brands, that physical call by a member of staff from that venue. Hi, Amber, just confirming, looking forward to seeing you tomorrow at 2:00. That reduces no-shows, full stop.
Yeah, 100%.
I was going to ask about that, because that's I know, like back in sort of 30 years ago when I had my first job in a restaurant, that was my job on a Saturday morning to make all those phone calls. But it worked. I think we found it reduced no-show rates by, it was about 25% fewer no-shows if we did that than if we didn't. So, and it kind of feels like that's probably still true.
And I know businesses, a really successful, large multi-site, high-end restaurant business that still does that relentlessly for every single booking. And I still get that for my hairdresser. And I always use this analogy. And I would never think of just not turning up to my hairdresser, because I've got that relationship. And you know how important that booking is. And I think you've got to create that feeling. Again, everything goes down to a feeling. It's not fluffy, it's true. You know, the guest has to feel, you know, responsible. And also, and so I think good old-fashioned sales, absolutely, technology is as important, but don't dismiss good old-fashioned sales, because it still works for not all customers, but for a lot of customers.
Yeah, no, definitely. So it seems like we have to think about multiple, like
Yeah,
I think someone made the point
definitely.
about multiple channels, like
yeah.
different people respond to different channels, don't they? So we have to build that into our sort of strategies a bit. I mean, how about sort of, I guess we're still finding that like as it has always been the case, the majority of people want to dine at those peak times when, and it feels like that's moved forward for a lot of people, like during the week, certainly that dining earlier is sort of a bit of a trend that we've seen in recent years. But are there any kind of tips that you could recommend for getting people to dine sort of at more of the shoulder times and fill those empty tables, as opposed to just everybody kind of wanting to pile in at exactly the same half hour?
Oh, you just hit my pet project. This is my love in hospitality. I mean, the
Give us all
definition
your
of
secrets, Gareth.
here we go, within reason, within reason. The definition of peak time, that's fascinating, isn't it? What we define as
Yeah.
peak time, and it differs for brands, venues, locations, of course. However, is that peak time is when people want to eat and want to dine and want to visit. It's really that simple. It's customers. So they always say fish where the fish are biting, the old sales analogy from years ago. So what we tend to do in business, and we've been liable for this at times as well, is spend so much time and effort trying to fill our shoulder periods, our off-peak periods, that actually we are not fully optimized at our peak time, full stop. So
Right.
now this is where technology does come in, and
Yeah.
it's not a people thing. This is an analytical, a metrics thing. Is to, if I've got X amount of space and X amount of covers, is how do I optimize that in my peak time? So the more cover turns, the playing around with turn times, the list goes on. I could bore you for hours with it, but in essence, can I get another 10 covers per hour per venue in those 4 hours of peak times every week? That rolls up to quite an interesting number in every business, of course. And
Yeah.
then can I start to stretch and influence what peak time actually is to the customer? Because we'll define peak time as 6 o'clock. If I can offer a 5:45, I'll probably get another cover turn in basically later on down the road. When it then comes to the typical shoulder periods, to answer your question, Olivia, where you started on there, is that it's to trying to find what is the market that would actually appreciate that shoulder period, rather than try and, in essence, change people's views and attitudes. If I want to go out on a Friday night, I want to go out on a Friday night. Now, if you want to try and put me onto a Tuesday wet afternoon, good luck. It's going to be a lot of time, effort, and possible money spent on there. So we would look, for example, at travel trade. Perfect example. Travel trade fills our off-peak times, which is fantastic actually to do. So we start to build up, we start to put experiences, offers, activities, functions, networking events into all those periods which are just not fully utilized. But
Yeah.
we won't bang our heads against a brick wall trying to fill every single gap of every single shoulder period until we are fully optimized at when people do want to come.
You're absolutely right, because what, Gareth, you're talking about, the low-hanging fruit is always your peak times. Just get more out of your busy periods. And I'd say 99% of every audit we run across the sector is they're not capitalising on their peak times. And they all think they're full, and they're not, because there are smarter ways you can work your spaces and table joins and booking system optimization. So I think that is always the first place to start. And 100%, it's all about reasons to visit and routes to market for your off-peak. So creating multiple reasons as to why I would come. And although I bloody hate discounting and I would not advise it in a business, however, you're better off having 50% of your restaurant booked on a Monday by putting in an offer or something that's enticing, a package, something that's real value for money. And it's not all price led, it's experience as well, which is why competitive socializing is such a successful part of our industry at the moment, because they're offering more than just food and drink, and it changes throughout the week. So you've got to put the work in, have several different types of reasons to visit, and then absolutely work really hard on who are we selling that to. Is it third-party channels like Gareth mentioned? Is it my local marketing, geographic targeting, social media advertising? If it's lunchtime, I'm competing with food markets, McDonald's even. So what does that offer need to change to look like? And where can I throw in ticketed and more entertainment and, all all of that stuff, it takes work and it takes graft, but just doing the same offer throughout the week at every time, you ain't going to be busy off peak. So protect your peak, optimize it, and then get creative with your routes to market and reasons to visit as much as you can, because you have to give people a hook.
I suppose your point about thinking about your point about the Monday lunchtime, Amber, that's maybe you don't need the same hurdles to make a booking on a Thursday night as you do on a Monday lunchtime. So that's, make it easy when it's a quiet time.
It's also I just find it a bit lazy, because, why would you just put a blanket card off to a group size of 4 on a Monday? Why not let them book in 2 clicks and then give them a ring and say, just checking, will be with us in half an hour. I mean, it literally takes a second. So I think there's a bit of hiding behind tech sometimes to just say, tick box, done, we've got that covered. But actually what they're forgetting is you will lose people. A booking barrier is real. Now, I expect it on your peak times as a customer, and I always think about the customer, which again, I think we think so much about the operation, but let's think about the customer. I expect it if I've got an occasion booking, but I want it to be easy. I don't want to have to be going to everyone asking them for money. So we've got to we've got to be flexible, like we've said a few times so far in this webinar, but it ain't one size fits all. It never is. So you've got to really work hard to look at all trading patterns, all times, all group sizes, and create different strategies for each. Might sound like a lot of work, but it is the best thing you will do to grow sales.
Yeah, and I think you're right, Amber, and I think you've touched a couple of times on card off and prepayment and deposits, and it's an interesting subject, isn't it? And we've all been down the mine and back again on that, because the 3 of us sat here are all customers of hospitality venues, and we all know how we feel when that dreaded thing pops up, as Amber said earlier on. Now, businesses have to make a decision on that. Do I take a deposit? What for? When for? How much for? And, if it's a card off, am I going to chase it? Or is it just, am I trying to just sort of reduce the no-shows? I think, we've done many, many tests, and it's not for us to divulge the outcomes of that, but there is risk and reward to those decisions, I can guarantee. Absolutely, because by putting that other barrier in of that card off or deposit, you need to be pretty certain you are literally absolutely full, or that is a big group, which of course, you're going to need some kind of prepayment for to secure that area or that event. But think carefully and think as a customer with that.
Just going to the other end of the scale, Gareth, on sort of your walk-ins or sort of on the day, more opportunistic kind of just hey, there's a table down the road, free in 5 minutes. Shall we go? Kind of thing. Is that something you think a lot about? Are you seeing? Is there a contingent of people that want to eat out in that way, or is it all about bookings in your world?
It'd be remiss of me to say it's all about bookings. That it's changed, hasn't it, from the walk-in business? We've seen that over the last sort of 10 years, I suppose, on there. But all businesses, as Amber said, and I totally agree, we're never full. I mean, there's always a way. I mean, it's like the old films from the past when they squeeze and bring a table in, don't they? For the mob boss in the corner and put it down. I mean, you can find a way. Put it this way: we don't have queues of people waiting get
outside.
In. If they do, and this is where it's about people, not so much technology. And I don't mean that with any disrespect. Is that a brilliant general manager will manage these chess pieces. If 5 people are waiting to come in, I'm fully booked. I can see, I've looked on TMS, I'm fully booked and I'm fully booked. They'll have them at the bar, basically. There might be a complimentary drink while they wait, and they move the chess pieces around to get the person in. Obviously, we have APIs coming in from third-party aggregators, of course. So, of course, we give them the times we want to fill, and if there's space, they can see that, bang, it clicks in. So it is a very important part of the business, but I don't think you can put this, we keep saying one size fits all strategy across that. A brilliant general manager, which we've all got across businesses, can make that work.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I get so fed up when I walk into a restaurant and it's got empty tables. And I don't just mean 1 or 2, I mean like 7 or 8 empty tables, and they're saying, no, sorry, we're fully booked. And I want to say, show me your booking system, show me the times of the arrivals. I only want half an hour, because you know that if that was a different manager, they would say you can have this table but only for an hour. But there's this fear from an operation perspective about having a packed restaurant or a packed bar or a packed pub. And it's really frustrating, because for a customer, if I didn't know the intricacies of how we run the industry, I'd leave going, well, that's pissed me off, because I've seen 8 tables. Don't tell me they're all walking in at the same time. And that's what happens. And also, if you ask for a card off, but you know you could walk in and not have to give a card off. So we've got to be really mindful again of the perception from the guest, because all of that links into my feeling about your business, and would I come back, and would I book again?
Yeah, so bringing it back to the guest every time is really interesting. So I mean, I think that's been so many interesting points there, and I just wanted to sort of summarize some of what we've been through today. I mean, in terms of the first 3 points here, I think just quite sort of simple things that you can do with technology in order to sort of reduce no-shows, like, you know, remember a simple reminder. It might be using technology, it might just be that phone call, that nice sort of personal touch that helps build up the relationship. Deposits, I think we're definitely seeing a lot more use of deposits in order to get that security. I think the point about making sure that they're applied in a really sensible way. So like for bigger tables and peak times, absolutely fine, but don't give people pointless hurdles to jump through on a Monday lunchtime. I think that's a really good point. And then just making it easy to cancel. I think you know, we'd all rather have a cancellation than a no-show, because then we can do something about it. So it seems like for a lot of people, if you at least put the cancellation in front of them in a really easy way, then they will kind of do the right thing. So that's an easy way technology can help. But I think I'm going to hand over to Amber for the last points here, because I think I guess it's always about sort of people and technology really that can make a difference. But yeah, talk us through these last points, Amber, in summary.
Yeah, I think you know what, we've covered most of it, and technology it's there for a reason, and it has to be strategic and tactical, and we're huge fans of tech at Bums on Seats. However, there is a people element that I think people crave, and so for me, there's this idea of, let's take it back to basics. If you're reviewing no-shows in your business, take it back to basics, focus on that human interaction and good old-fashioned hospitality through rapport building, which you can also do, by the way, online and through tech. This doesn't have to be actually face-to-face either. And be memorable. And the one thing that we talk about, which hasn't changed in a decade, and I hate that in a way, because I always want to show that we're moving with the times, but actually for a business to be memorable, that guest experience to be memorable, is your fundamental number one, because that way you'll be at their first point, and they won't just cancel. They will have a feeling about your business that will stop them just not turning up. Tactical planning is a second bit that we've spoken a lot about, so I'll just touch on this very briefly. But look at your trading patterns as well as group size and occasion to reduce those no-shows across the week, and do a combination. So it could be SMS, it could be phone calls, it could be emails. You know, there's lots of different forms. Maybe you want a mix of all 3, but one size doesn't fit all. And then finally, guest experience. So if you feel that you've got quite robotic in some of your processes, there's a bit of a tick box there. Just a link is sent to pay deposit. We just use card off all the time. Stop, because a little effort does go a really long way. And even if you start small, the low-hanging fruit, focus on your key busiest peak occasion first, and then work back from that. It will have bigger impact than I think a lot of businesses realise.
Fantastic. No, I think that's all really good advice and stuff that should be kind of quite, you know, sort of easy to sort of put into action in your own business. But I think coming back to a lot of Gareth's points, start with like seeing what's really going on and understanding the behavior, and then come up with your own formula, because I guess it's different for everyone, isn't it, really? That's so it takes a bit of work, as you've been rightly saying, Amber. So just want to say thank you so much, both Gareth and Amber. I think some really helpful points there. For people looking viewing this webinar, we've got you can visit the campaign webpage for Show Up Hospitality, where you can download our research and find out lots of more useful kind of tools and tips there. But yeah, thank you so much for joining, and I'll see you both again soon.
Thanks,
Pleasure.
guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.